to Vision Denial. So this is a show where a bunch of friends are currently doing some analysis and breakdowns of worlds that is happening. This podcast specifically we're doing as a fun thing for this year because we also have a little bit of a wager. Less of a wager and more like we all decided that if a North American team makes it to quarterfinals, so they all make it out of groups, we'll buy their jerseys. Except for TSM, they got to make it to semis. They need to win a best of 5
because we're Canadian, the jerseys are going to cost us almost $100 because of shipping.
And we're not big fans of TSM, so they got to work extra hard.
Wow.
So we're gonna be.
Someone has to defend TSM. Okay, go ahead.
I know.
But you're gonna be that guy.
Are you gonna be
I have to be.
So we got a couple of segments that we got going over here. We're going to be taking a breakdown of the first off and play-ins. We're going to do a couple of predictions, and we got a spicy prediction segment that we got going, where the most unlikely teams, the most likely unlikely teams to make it to semis. We're going to start first. Let's take a look at the pools and analyze them a little bit, and we're going to go through the predictions. And as we get into predictions, just a simple breakdown. We're going to predict the order in which they get in. If you get that right, you get a point. And at some point, we'll have a point tally as episodes go on eventually. And if you get their score correct, you get an extra bonus point. And then once the results come in after all the round 1 best of 1s go through, and we'll know who does the best of 5s for play-ins, we'll do a separate segment for predictions for that. Connor jumped the gun a little bit, but we'll just we'll leave that aside.
We'll leave it aside.
We haven't even introduced ourselves. For all they know, he could be Connor.
That's
How dare
true. You? All right, so I'm Sebastian. You can follow me on any social media that's like at Tyken4Rightum. That'll do the trick. You usually can find me from there, or at Tyken if it's not a Vietnamese person who's already taken it.
I'm Josh. I've been playing League since Zach was a new champion. That was the first time I started playing League. So not ancient, but like more than most people apparently. And I tend to be a bandwagoner, I've been told, but I'm mostly just a fan of good old fashioned League of Legends and team fighting. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, and I'm Connor, as mentioned. I guess technically, Seb, did you get me into League? Like 2014?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so 2014, because season 3 or 4, whatever that was. 4, yeah. And I just, I'm a Janna main who plays way too aggressively.
Right, and I didn't make context for how long I've been playing. So I started dabbling in it in 2012 before going to university. Didn't have a solid internet connection, and then when I finally got to university in 2013, at the start of season 3, just as Thresh was released, that's pretty old. I started getting into playing it and got really into the competitive scene in that same year, and have only been doing aggressive analysis since then. So that's the context on how we do it. At least for our own ways that we like to approach the game.
To be fair, also, we're saying how long we've been playing, but we're also all kind of garbage. Like, I think the highest we've ever gotten is I've gotten as high as Gold 4. I don't know how about you guys.
I can be the guy like, I've had diamond players tell me that I play super good. And I'm like, that doesn't mean fuck all. I may be good at knowing what the game is supposed to be about, but if I can't play the game, I'm just hot garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Gold 3, so listen to me the most.
Ooh, the high-ranked player. Anyway, the first thing we wanted to get into was we're going to just go over our tier lists for all of Worlds. As a little joke, I think this actually might be what you considered what was the inspiration for this show to even start, was jokingly... The 3 of us all made a tier list with Tier List Maker to talk about which teams we thought were the best and which teams we thought were the worst going to Worlds. We're going to go one by one on everyone's tier list, and we're just going to kind of like quickly go over what is where, why they're there, if anything stands out, why. And I guess we'll start with Seb. How about we start with yours?
Right. So mine was less of a joke and more of a I watched all 324 games of League of Legends and made a post about every
As
goddamn
most
series.
people do.
Yeah, oh yeah. Um and people on Twitter also had a big conniption about the way I approached my tier list.
Yeah,
Um
you upset a lot of NA and EU fans.
yeah, somehow I upset NA fans. I don't understand how that happened.
Hmm.
And I upset EU fans. Look, so here's my breakdown of it. Right, I had top and Damwon being in the top two. Ooh, big surprise.
By the
Ooh,
way, it'll be on screen.
yeah. I can imagine. Um, and then I put Sunin. People apparently will think it's overhyped. Guys, literally look at how they bodied LGD twice. I mean, don't consider it the first time, but like they're much more consistent with the gameplay. And I put Gen.G and JDG. People would be like, Gen.G, what the fuck? They're the third seed. What's going on? Look, don't count the 3-hour pause they had. That shit doesn't make sense. It's also the only games that are played on 10.17. Doesn't make sense. Most of what I made this tier list is based off 10.16 and the playoffs. I ignored the year because look at Cloud9.
Ooh, roasted.
And the thing that got me in most flack is literally the B tier. I also approached this tier list as a normal distribution. Now, people who know how normal distributions work know that that means that they still fall within the average. So I put TSM, LGD, FlyQuest, and G2 all within the above average, slightly above average, because that's what they are. Like LGD was the worst performing team out of China, but it's still China with above average performing teams, like all around are like very well above averaging teams. And then TSM and FlyQuest just kind of surprised me with their approach to the meta and the fact that TSM has consistently been improving. And G2 is there because usually in every other year they'd be higher up, but Europe has just been pretty awful.
Also, they went on like a losing streak, and it was like really weird. And
Yeah.
yeah,
The rest of it follows suit as like C is average, so DRX, Fnatic, Team Flash, RIP Vietnam, who was my favorite region, Team Liquid, Rogue, and Machi are all fairly average, and a little under average is PSG, GAM, GAM, Gigabyte Marines, RIP again Vietnam, UOL, and MAD. So those are just like the average teams. The things can just jump around from there on out. And then there are the teams who I have no hope for, but at least I put some differentiation between them. R7, V3, top is supermassive. Like at the end of the day, it's mostly seeing the difference between B and A is so big. Like everybody else is fighting for the last three group spots in my eyes. Uh,
that's
like
fair.
you got 4 teams that are fighting for the last three, and I think at least, I mean, like anybody else could probably take it, but I'm pretty sure at least one NA team and one European team are going to make it, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Be surprised if it was
Yeah.
2 NA teams, but
it could happen maybe. So Connor, what do you want to talk about on your tier list?
Yeah. So I had you can see I have top esports alone in first place. I do think they're probably the favorite going in to win it all. From there, Damwon and Gen.G and JDG are your basically contenders, 2, 3, 4. Assuming they don't hit each other, they'll probably be the 4 teams in semifinals. Not much you really need to say there. A tier 3 would be the next 3 teams likely to get there, which is Sunying, DRX, and G2. I think Seb had DRX a bit low on his list, but I'd say you really can't discount Chovy at all. You can probably carry them at least through group stage.
I get that. I
Yep.
just can't see solo carries really do it, but I get that.
Yep. And then my C tier, because I have the arguably any team's a little bit high, but we like to have faith that TSM and FlyQuest will do fairly good.
Some
we
of
like to
us
do
like
Fnatic.
to have faith. Some of us like to have faith.
Yep. And then from there, I have the various playing teams. The one thing I'd want to say there is after having recently, after making this list, go through and watch the Russian games, I'd probably put UOL a fair bit higher.
Oh yeah.
But
Maybe a little bit.
Just a bit.
Like maybe even throw them from the E tier to the C tier.
Ooh, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like I'd see like if Unicorns get to that Group A with Machi, they probably get at least third place.
Oh.
Yeah. But that's getting ahead of myself.
So you like to do that a little bit. Okay. And how about yours, Josh?
So I'm not gonna talk too much about like every single spot in my tier list. I kind of grouped a bunch of teams because I'm really bad at making decisions in terms of who goes where. But the standout teams that I wanted to just cover really quick. I personally think the semifinals, like we're already going there. The finals, I mean, is gonna be Damwon and Top. I just think that's where it's gonna go based off what I've seen from them. I've been a bad League of Legends fan, and I haven't watched all of China or all of Korea. But from what I've watched and from what I've seen, they seem really good. So I personally just think like the way the trend has been the past couple of years, we're definitely getting a Damwon top final, which is why they're an S tier for me. The A tier, I put LGD and FlyQuest. LGD because I have a
Yeah.
soft spot for them because the last time they were at Worlds, everyone was hyping them up and then they bombed really bad. So
Uh-huh.
now I just want like the prophecy to come true. I want them to come in. I want them to smash. And then FlyQuest. I think FlyQuest is the best chance NA has of getting out of groups personally, because I feel like Liquid gets too obsessed with playing slow controlling games, and I just feel like any of the Chinese teams and possibly any of the Europe teams are just going to play super aggro, eke out some wins in group stage, and then make them lose their second spot in the group, and then they're going to fall out. The rest you can kind of see. I don't put a ton of stake into like Suning, and obviously the Vietnam teams are gone now. But those are like, yeah, those are kind of that's kind of like the region of like they're like okay, but like I don't know. Fnatic, I'm not impressed at all with them. So like I put them there.
The
Mad,
point where you put Rogue above them, that's hilarious.
well, like here's the thing. I think Rogue and Mad are better than Fnatic. The only reason why Mad is in the same spot as Fnatic is because like they have like a really weird like crashing the last couple games
Yeah.
before Worlds. But if you ignore like four out of the like four series or
Very hard to
whatever,
ignore, but yes.
they looked okay. So like they don't drop any lower than D. But Fnatic for me, like I don't know, like I just Fnatic's almost like the Team Liquid of Europe almost, where I'm just kind of like they're good in Europe, but as soon as they leave Europe, I personally feel like they can get exploited. Yes, I know they went to semis, but I just feel like this year they're nowhere near as good as they were when they went to semis.
I
UOL,
That's a
think they're
weird
better.
take because I would say almost that for Rogue. I think Rogue is the European Team Liquid. They're the most
Rogue
predictive
being
team I've seen.
yeah. Rogue being as high as they are is also just partially because of the fact that I'm super impressed with them as a whole throughout the whole season. Because when Rogue was originally formed, I was listening to like other podcasts and stuff like that, and they're just like, I don't know any of the players on this team. Like, this org makes no sense. And like I'm sitting there as a listener, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know any of these people. This team's not going to do good at all. They didn't do good the first year they were there, but like they went from like I think what was like a 9th place team to going to Worlds, which I think is like pretty big. I'm gonna kind of gloss over the rest of them because a lot of it is just like a lot of them are emerging regions. A lot of them aren't gonna do super great in my opinion, despite the fact that I love the Japanese region. Detonation focused me. I wish they would have came this year, but it's fine.
Oh my god, that series really made me sad.
But the last thing I'm gonna talk about is TSM. I put TSM in F tier because
Hurts.
I used to love TSM. I used to be one of the people that would spam TSM in the chat, like all that stuff. I used to love it. The problem though is that I'm so tired of Bjergsen in the wards. I'm I'm tired. I'm tired of TSM underperforming at Worlds. I'm also tired of like TSM being like so greedy to be good that they make stupid decisions and stuff like that. Like I
Mhm.
stopped liking TSM when they dropped Double Lift. Basically, I was like, this is
Oh.
stupid.
Back,
I don't think, huh?
but he's back.
No, I know, but like when they dropped him, I was like, TSM stupid. Like I can't deal with this crap anymore. And then yes, Double Lift is back now, but like I don't like the way like I don't know. I'm not impressed with Double Lift anymore since his slump on TL. I don't think he's really
get
come
that,
back
yeah.
that much personally, and
That's
I
fair.
just think that like TSM, granted, their showing in finals was a bit better than what I was
Oh.
hoping because I really wanted FlyQuest to smash them.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
I personally think TSM's going to show up to Worlds, have a super immovable view of what the meta is supposed to be, and they're not going to change from it until like they're, I don't know, like 1-3 in groups or whatever. And then they're like, okay, now we'll try and change, and it'll be too late. And then they'll be like, it's the NA culture, or like they'll blame some crap. They'll fire 3 players and keep Bjergsen and probably Double Lift, and then have the whole same old story of like, we're rebranding, we're gonna be back better than ever. And it's like, I'm tired of it. So F
Well,
tier.
I mean, the other players are kind of why I like TSM right now, because you got. I guess people don't really talk about it, so I'll mention it. You got this kind of nice, weird synergy between Biofrost and Broken Blade, because you got Broken Blade on one hand being like, guys, we're totally the best. We got this. We're like so much better than them, and whatever. We're gonna smash. And he's just be like, yeah, we got this, guys. And then you got Biofrost being like, well, the good news is we can't do worse than 4th. So like, we got 4th place down pat, and it's just that between the two of them is just like. But like, what's the best we could do Biofrost? He's like, no, we can't do worse than 4th. We got 4th place down for sure.
And here's the thing,
Right.
I actually like one of my favorite support players. Like my second favorite
Mhm.
support player is Biofrost. I still like Double Lift as an 80 carry. I just don't think he's that good anymore, or he hasn't come back to full form, I guess is the better way of saying it.
Sure.
Bjergsen is, again, he's good, but I feel the way TSM caters to him for what is up until the finals of NA not super worth it. In my mind, like the returns aren't like what you're getting into them, what you're investing into them. So I'm just like, I don't know. I'm done with TSM like as an org. I'll be gladly wrong if they make it to semis and whatever. I'll take out the TSM emotes, start spamming them or whatever in the chat. But I
Buy the
personally,
jersey.
I'll unfortunately buy the jersey. But I just personally think like TSM, they're gonna show up, they're gonna say that they got a read on the meta, and then they're gonna bomb like they do almost every time.
So I'm going to put a preface here too. These two have known me for quite some time and know that I absolutely hate TSM.
Yes.
Like they can burn into a dumpster fire. I'm a big Double Lift fan. I've been a Double Lift fan forever.
You're
because
actually
I'm
the
an
one that got me to
original
like Double Lift.
CLG fan.
You're actually the one that got me to like Double Lift.
Yeah, Double Lift is cool. I mean, his attitude sucks, but his style is cool. But I hate TSM with like a burning passion. So any praise I give to TSM, I'm hating myself on the inside. So any context that I give and people are like, "You're an NA fan." No. I don't like any of the teams that are going right now. None of them. The only team I like in
Not
NA.
even FlyQuest. Oh.
I mean, like they're cool. I like Wild Turtle, but like it's just Cloud9 2.0, quite literally. It literally was Cloud9's B team that qualified through the Challenger Series, and then got really popular from that. They had to rebrand because Cloud9 can't own 2 teams in LCS. And then when franchising happened, they were so popular that they had to be put in. So like it's just Cloud9 2.0.
Well, in terms of org, yeah, but the players, no.
No, of course not, because Cloud9 is not there.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate what FlyQuest is trying to do. I appreciate their marketing team. I follow them on Twitter. I follow all the teams except for TSM that are going to Worlds. I'm not gonna pander to that. So me saying that I'll buy a jersey from TSM if they make it to semis means that they have to really impress.
$100 jersey, dude. Oh my god.
Oh god. But I'm a CLG fan through and through, and that makes me just sad.
That how's it been?
Look, okay, every time I tell Dee, my fiance, like that I'm a CLG fan, and D looks at me and is like, "So are they losing still?" I'm like, "Why?" Like, look, it's like the Maple Leafs or the Blue Jays. I'm like, you don't have to make that comparison. Sure, they're Canadian teams, but that doesn't stop the fact that you're right.
At least the Blue Jays were good like a year or two ago, but yeah.
Sure, so was CLG 3 or 4 years ago.
Ooh.
My favorite sports team is Tampa Bay Lightning, so I'm in a good spot right now. Stanley Cup Finals.
All right, enough sports talk.
Anyway,
Back to
Enough
esports.
talking about esports.
So now that we're done with our tier stuff, we're gonna talk really quick about the overall pool for the play-in stage.
Yep.
So because NA sucks, we have to send one of our teams through play-ins. We don't get a pass like China does, or not China.
Korea.
Korea. Or Europe. Oh no, Europe, Mad Lions. Never mind.
Yeah.
Korea's the only one with the pass, but whatever.
Yeah, but that's because of Vietnam. So I don't know
know.
if that really counts.
I just feel like there's like a riot puppeteer in the back being like, give Korea all the chances they can.
And then you still give China also all the chances. Look, something's happening in Riot, but Riot is the FIFA of esports. Yeah.
Ooh. All right, so I guess we'll start off with Pool A.
Yep.
Let's just quickly go over maybe like each team for those who maybe don't know what each team is from. So we've got Team Liquid from NA. They're the third seed. Third seed from EU, Mad Lions. Legacy East. Sorry, fourth seed. Legacy Esports. I always forget where they're from.
Australia. They're from
Australia.
Australia, the absolute worst region in the world currently.
I thought that was Brazil.
No. Brazil pisses me off, but at least Australia isn't trying to be North America 2.0, but with zero flexibility and zero execution.
All right. So Legacy Esports Australia. Supermassive is, I keep wanting to say
Turkey.
Russia. It's not Russia. It's Turkey. Ints from Brazil.
Yep.
Yes.
So how do we feel about Group A?
Liquid and Mad have got an easy pass.
Yeah, I think maybe Supermassive can do something. Maybe, but
yeah. So I'll take this. So basically, I'm saying, yeah, most people always have Group A as you got Team Liquid, you got Mad Lions, and you got the rest. Because you got two major region teams. People know them. I'd say that there's probably two players you're going to want to watch if you're watching Group A. That is, so INTZ, their top laner, Tae, who's their Korean top laner. If INTZ is going to win a game, they're going to make an upset, it's going to be through top lane. Their jungler, Sheeny, just plays through top constantly. And then the second one, as you may have heard of, is Supermassive, their jungler, Kakao, also a Korean player. Kakao's just been destroying all of Turkey this year.
It's literally the world's best jungler smurfing on a region.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's put it this way. So at 15 minutes, he's average plus 900 experience. Stat I wrote down, which is, I think, if you do the experience bar, it's like maybe a level and a half.
Yes, that's right. That's about right.
Yeah, he's about a level and a half up on average.
Yep.
That's just ridiculous.
It's literally smurfing the whole region.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're going to want to watch is, like, can INTZ carry through top lane? Can Supermassive carry through jungle?
I will say
upset. That's where it's going to be.
No, yeah, exactly it. The things to look out also specifically, at least because INTZ thing with Brazil is that most of that region had a lot of flexibility with all 4 teams that made it through playoffs. The issue is that their execution was super lacking, and they would devolve into team fights by 40 minutes. So that what Connor pointed out in terms of playing through top lane and then waiting it out forever, that might catch some of the Mad Lions and Team Liquid off just a little bit. But unfortunately, I don't think the rest of their lanes are up to snuff with it, and like their vision control is just not great. So their setups for everything doesn't hold up to par. But Supermassive, however, it really depends on if the rest of the team got a good night's rest or not. Because Kakao is doing awesome. He does some questionable things sometimes where I'm like, he's really trying to carry. But the rest of their laners are probably weaker than every other Turkish region team that was there. And it really surprised me when they stepped up during the playoffs, because I think it surprised most people, considering how Their first series, it was Cacao's winning, cool, the team's winning, and if they're not, then the rest of the team literally can't do shit. And then as the series,
not.
as every series went on, the laners got better and better. So my focus here is, do the laners hold up to snuff against the EU and NA laners? That's it.
Yeah, I mean, so the way Zeke now plays, it's probably your second player to watch in Supermassive, is he basically just plays Caitlyn and Kalista, and always starts Door and Blade, goes for lane early, gets lane pressure, gets up in CS early, and has Cacao plays around that bot lane. They'll 3v2 dive like level 4 kind of stuff quite often. Like
Yeah,
they're just going for
they do that fairly frequently.
yeah.
Also, I don't think many other people, correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't watch too much of the emerging region stuff. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone else, including the major regions, at least in Pool A, play Kalista.
So
At least to
Kalista,
like a consistent
Tactical?
degree.
So I think it's the thing to also consider is the way that drafts are approached in a bunch of the emerging regions, right?
Yep.
People make fun of the fact that North America tends to focus on bot lane a lot and on a lot of dragon control early.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But the thing is that literally that is the approach to how the draft works almost everywhere. It is actually surprising to me that EU does almost zero focus on bot lane draft. And what happens is that some of the regions go gun-ho on that. They overdo it. So what came from a lot of these analysis is that you end up with a lot of bans for bot laners, but not a lot of focus on first picking them. Because they would have other priority picks. And so over time, if they didn't do it on first or second rotation, you'd get to the second the second ban phase, and then they would ban bot laners that would complement the other team, which thinned it out more.
Okay.
Right?
Both the two major region 80 carries, so Kersey, if I'm saying that right, and Tactical both play Kalista.
Do they? Okay,
Yeah.
I don't remember. I thought Tactical was mostly playing
most
Caitlyn.
famous playoff. His most famous playoff, the highlight was the 3v5 Kalista play.
Oh, geez, maybe I'm forgetting.
He literally
crap then.
almost pentakilled. Almost pentakilled TSM to victory.
Yep.
My bad then. I forgot, I guess.
But Kalista's not a priority pick in 10.16. And again, preface, all of this analysis is done on 10.16, or if you watched any of the year prior to those patches. Worlds patch does not work. But also note, the champions on 10.16 are all the same still. No Yone, no Samrisa? That's what I don't remember.
Samira.
There we go.
I thought I was watching Hotline League, and they said something like Yone will be enabled for Worlds.
Nope.
Correct me
It
if
was
I'm wrong.
done on devlog. They announced that Yone would not be, because they were avoiding shit like the Akali meta that happened, or the Gangplank new champions are not done at Worlds this year. They only took the ones that they would have the time to look at and be able to balance appropriately before then. And I think that is the goddamn smartest decision that has been made for World Championships ever.
The no new champions? Yeah.
Yeah, no new champions. Good. It means that people have been able to at least transition easily between the patches and develop a meta that is appropriate from it. Because otherwise, it's just like, I don't know, 2015, where Gangplank was literally 100% presence, and only 4 games were picked from him because an idiot team decided not to ban it on red side, and then every other game was banned.
Well, we all make mistakes, Seb.
Like, I don't know.
I think at the stat here, it's like 2020. There's been, I think, pretty much every champion in the game has been played.
That's pretty cool.
If you include like the has been played professionally. So I think one of the examples is like the league in Argentina. So like not even the Latin American league, the Argentina specifically.
The smaller.
They've played like Teemo support, Shaco support, that kind of stuff. So like, would you include that and the European Masters in that? Yeah, everything in the game's been played.
European Masters was interesting. Not to we need to kind of rein it back in, but like European Masters was an interesting watch.
So let's focus more on the teams that matter for this discussion.
Yep.
And I'll just point out really quickly, I'm going to harp on Australia forever because I want them to do better, because they're so close to all of the other really good regions and have done nothing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Why the fuck do you pick the same style composition every goddamn time? The fact that we can predict what you're going to pick either side does not help you, especially since you're always going to fight on a timer. Oh, look, it's 7 minutes. Time for dragon fight. 9 minutes. Time for herald fight. 12 minutes. Time for another dragon fight, and so on and so forth. You can time exactly when they're going to play. It is the most predictable team that's going to be there, draft and play style wise. And like, there's going to be some originality that'll catch you off guard, but you'll know every time that if it's because they're missing a role, they're just doing something funky. The most interesting thing is that they made Lilia tank top, and that's because they had no other tanks in that composition, and they always have a tank in a composition.
Yeah, it's mostly just their players play the same style. Like Isles, the support, he plays
Yep.
enchanters. Like he doesn't play like Nautilus even, which is like
Which
you
is
know,
kind of a
probably
big
the most
move
played support.
for supports.
He plays Lux, Bard, Lulu, Morgana. Like that's basically his champion pool.
Yep.
And their jungler plays nothing but tanks. Like it's Olaf, Sejuani, Trundle, and Volibear. He played one game of Graves and went like 0-6. Like, don't do it again.
Don't remind me, please. No, it's a sad time.
Like they play one style. So yeah, it's tank, jungler, enchanter, support. You know, the top laner played Ornn, but don't do it. I mean, he was still good. But he just plays aggressive. So take to the Renekton and Camille, right? Like.
Mm-hmm. So is that basically it for Group A, or do we have any other last words for the analysis?
Right. I do want to mention one thing, right? Because we didn't really talk about the major regions.
Yep.
Matt Line has the most flexibility out of all of these teams.
Yep.
They really impressed me with the amount of flexibility they showed and how they're very able, like they're good at reading teams, which is hilarious considering how the other 4 teams in this group are super predictable. So Mad Lions, I think, has a leg up, but they are not super consistent in their execution, at least not in what I've seen from their playoffs.
Fair.
Which I think will be their weakness, is that because the fact they're able to predict things really easily, they showed that when they were playing against Rogue, they showed that when they were playing against G2, they should be able to catch off guard all of the minor teams, and they'll have maybe some difficulties against Team Liquid, mostly just due to execution. That's it. I think it's literally going to be a skill matchup between those 2 teams, and I would give the leg up on Team Liquid just because they're much more consistent at what they like to execute on. But the flexibility and the fact that they're really good at reading, good. And Team Liquid, I don't think they're going to make it past groups. They're going to make it past play-ins, but that's about it. They have 0 flexibility as far as I can tell, and it really frustrates me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like technically like the second most played for Kaiser. Their support is like Wukong. They're just playing Senna Wukong lanes. Like, does anyone else in the world play Wukong support?
Not in bot lane. No,
Not
no,
support.
Nope.
Well, Cloud9 did, but
technically it's split farm because it's Senna. But
so in the world, in Korea, that was quite a trend for a bit, but that's as Senna was still being a support more than an ADC. But in top lane has some plays internationally, just sprinkled all over the place, or mostly getting advantages in the top end. So like you're focusing on tower and herald control.
All right. So on that slightly depressing note about NA, we're gonna move over to Group B. So for Group B, we've got LGD Gaming, PSG Talon, V3 Esports, Unicorns of Love, and Rainbow 7. LGD is from China. PSG is from Southeast Asia. V3 is from Japan. Unicorns of Love is from Russia, and Rainbow 7 is
Latin America.
Latin America. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, we'll also have like what our predictions and scores will be in whatever the corner is, so that people can.
We'll be getting into those in just a second.
Yeah, but like
we'll discuss our predictions next.
I want to start with my favorite team out of Group B, just because like they literally had my hair pulled out, but they somehow did it. They're mad lads for this. They should have never qualified for Worlds. Rainbow 7 is fucking awesome.
Okay.
That good?
No.
That
but
bad?
they're so much fun. They're really bad, but they also. This is one of those teams where like the first year where Vietnam impressed everybody is because Gigabyte Marines literally cheesed everybody,
But I
right?
like
And then,
cheese.
well, I'm sorry, Nocturne level 6 at 4 minutes, and then they
So
just
good.
like it was
So
great.
good.
It was definitely not,
Quality League of Legends.
All right, reeling back in though, and I'll mention this real quickly. So no team has won with a Luxona bot lane except for Rainbow Seven.
Hmm.
That's hilarious because what they did is they
Mhm.
picked Luxona bot lane,
Yep.
Vayne mid. I don't care what the rest is because what they did then is they did a bot lane swap to top lane with Luxona.
Yep.
Yeah. The look that you have right there should be look of what the fuck are they thinking?
Yeah.
That doesn't make
Oh,
any
let's
sense.
Please send
let's
me a
mention
link to
that
that
Bane's
game
build.
after this.
Wait, let me mention Bane's build because I wrote it down as a note.
Oh, yeah.
He went Rageblade, Frozen Mallet.
Please send me a link to this. I need to watch it.
No, this game is incredible. I'm literally watching the draft happen. I'm like, all right, they're gonna do a Luxona bot lane, and I'm like, okay, they have tanks. They don't have any proper tower push. They have
Yep.
no proper consistent DPS. It's literally burst, and they're gonna lose out in the early game. And they pick Vayne. And for me,
Rageblade, Frozen Mallet.
if you pick Vayne as a bot laner, you're literally throwing the gloves down and saying, "I'm so much better than you. I will win this game." Because
Mhm.
if you do that, you're going to lose this game. You have to be that much better. So the fact that they did that for mid lane, I went, "What the fuck are they thinking?" The worst part is that they were literally losing. They did the lane swap, fucked it up. Of course, they fucked it up. They don't have any AD pressure for the top lane turret mitigation. Whatever, it's a stupid patch.
Mhm.
And not only did they fuck that up, but the Vayne was doing literally jack shit. Their top laner fucked it up also. The whole execution of that for the first 30 minutes, terrible. And yet somehow, by defying all odds, they win that game.
And that whole team is like that because so their top laner plays Fleet Footwork Shen. Their jungler buys Zeke's Conversion Sun Trundle, which is interesting, but I haven't seen anyone else ever build Zeke Sun Trundle. And their mid laner basically only plays Zoe and Azir and looks bad in anything else. So just keep him with those, and he's fine. And yeah, as mentioned, so even like their AD carry plays like Varus and Aphelios still in Summer Split, which are not really played much anywhere else.
Yeah, it's
Um,
this team.
yeah,
Every time I look at their drafts, I'm like, all right, I guess it's creative, but also it's just bad.
yeah.
Nothing they draft makes sense.
Sounds
The
like
one thing I
old
want to say,
UOL.
if you're watching Rainbow Seven though, if you want them to do well, you want Jordeo to get Lilia as his jungle.
Yes.
He's only played a couple games of it, but his Lilia is insane. He only played a few games of it, but he's 32 KDA. 32 is technically his current KDA of Lilia. Just disgusting. Then again, he might not snowball the way he did, right? So
Yeah, we have to remember he's against international competition now, so it might not end up the
Mhm.
same.
But if you really want to expect an upset in play-ins, Rainbow Seven's your guys. Yo, Rainbow Seven will definitely pull that out of nowhere because that's the only thing they know how to do. Literally every team they faced was better than them, and they somehow still won.
yeah. So I'm gonna move on to PSG. May as well
Yeah.
get to the next team, right? Yeah, so my notes on them, stuff like they don't play set, which is weird. They just ban set constantly.
Yeah.
Very few teams don't play set, so that's interesting to notice. Their top laner, Hanabi, he's 28% first blood victim. So normally when you think about it, first blood, 50-50, each team gets it, half the games. Just him as a player, 28%. Means he is
gets
dying
attacked a lot.
early all the time.
Yep. I do want to put a context for the set thing though. That's
Mhm.
because PCS is a very flexible. It's also the most ping pongy, like the most pendulum swinging
Yep.
region in the world. The quality of teams is like really bad to like, wow, this is really impressive for like an emerging. Oh, well, I guess it's a mid tier region.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also context. Literally, both of the PCS teams were not the number 1 and 2 seed. AHQ, which oh god, thank you, they're not going. But AHQ fumbled so hard on everything until they got to the losers bracket and still lost to J Team, who surprisingly lost. No one expected J Team to lose. J Team is, for those who don't know, the spiritual successors to Yoei Flash Wolves.
Mhm.
So like no one knows what the fuck happened. And when J Team got better, they still lost to the team that beat them that got a better. So like, and we'll get to that when we get to groups much further down the line. But PSG is the most consistent team out of that region, bar none.
Okay.
They've done zero improvement, but also zero decrease in quality.
They've
Um,
plateaued.
Yeah,
yeah,
they also they draft just to play the lane. Like they don't draft team
Yeah.
comps specifically that work together. They draft to win the lane. So they're, they draft stuff that can clear waves early, push every lane, and then be like, well, we're pushing all 3 waves, so you can probably gank us. Their vision scores are below average,
Yeah.
basically everyone. They push all 3 waves and go, well, you can only gank one of us. So like you probably will gank one of us, but if you gank top, we can push and get plates mid and bot. And
They usually take advantage of that, which is weird because no one's properly punished them except for Machi. Oh god, Machi's so good. But they usually take advantage of that by usually having aggressive control over objectives. They have very solid objective control because they properly set up for the timings. Their vision control is so bad, and their vision denial is also really bad. But at least when they're doing objective control, they have just enough to work from it, but they do none of the setup. And the reason why they do none of the setup is because they're just expecting to win lane and just push forever.
Which is something that's going to get, in my opinion, super like dogged on when they start playing against other regions, in my opinion.
I think mostly by
yeah,
LGD and UOL,
Mm-hmm.
you will. Yeah.
not by the other teams. No.
Hey man, I have faith in V3.
Do you want to talk about
We'll
V3?
get to them.
I know actually next to nothing about V3. The team that I followed normally in Japan was Detonation, but they're
Okay.
not there. So I'm literally
Unfortunately.
just dark horse, not even really, but like kind of in my heart of hearts. I'm rooting secretly for V3 because hell, if they make it out of groups, I'll be happy. It's just like my little team. I'm like, I hope you do good. There's
Mhm.
no reasoning for it. Just kind of want them to do good.
I really don't know how V3 won that series to qualify for Worlds. I'm going to be quite honest. I watched that live. Like, this was one of the last main playoff series that were not a regional qualifiers on the same day that Europe and North America had it. And I watched that series, literally waking up at like ungodly hours. And I sat there, watched them win the first game. I was like, all right, they usually have the early momentum, but they never carry it through. And then Detonation Focus Me has Utapon, who's just been a mad lad and like destroying everything during that playoff series. And they fuck it up after 2 games and they just throw it. And then I'm like, how does this? And I remember reading in the Japanese chat, literally, it was like Detonation, throw me.
Yeah, a little bit.
I was like, ooh. The one thing I will say from V3 though is that they're very flexible in their drafts.
Yeah.
They have what I think going for them is a lot more flexibility, so they don't get banned out very easily. And they do also have a very good recognition of what the opponent's win conditions are during the drafting. So when they do they do flexible drafting, they will tend to focus on drafts that will help their win conditions and mitigate their opponents. Now, I'm not sold that this will work on teams that have very clearly better laners.
Yeah.
They will do, I think, okay against Rainbow Seven, but again, Rainbow Seven is the wild factor of this group, so I don't expect them to win against them.
Do you think we should start maybe sliding into predictions then at this point?
Not quite.
No.
I'm just mentioning the V3s. Don't get your hopes up for V3 for anybody who wants to bet money.
Yeah. So what are the last two teams? We got LGD, who's the big favorite going in.
UOL. I think UOL is
Yeah.
fun. Yo,
Oh, yeah.
Josh, I know you're hyped for UOL.
I'm very hyped for UOL. It's not the UOL that I fell in love with, but I still love them. I'm a big fan of the original UOL of Hillsong, Vizichachi, all them, Kikis. Oh my god. When they were in the European LCS, because that's what it was back then. I'm a big fan of them. I obviously don't follow them as much now that they're in Russia, but I was able to catch some of their last couple games. I think they're, as far as a non-major region goes, I think they're pretty solid. Not to get into predictions or anything like that right now, but I'm happy with where they are. They beat Gambit, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
So that's like their
literally
claim
those
to
were
fame.
the only two teams that were worth any snuff in Russia.
Mm-hmm. So
And
like points, brownie points, like.
what I want to mention about them is, so people noticed they went 20-1 in summer.
Yeah.
I just want to mention their draft and their one loss. So this was their draft. Ornn top, Trendle jungle, both of them going like, Ornn building as usual, Sunfire, Missile, like, Trundle also went like Stoneplate, Silas mid, Senna bot, building lethality, and then Tom Kench.
That's
so you
very
have
low
3
wave
tanks,
clear.
And your only damage in wave clear is Senna, like lowest wave clear to carry, and Silas. How do you expect to win that game? You don't clear waves and you don't do damage.
They don't expect to win the games that normally. Okay, so people who are going to come here and just be like, "Oh yeah, we're expecting them to be very solid." This region just fights. They just fight. There's some setup.
They're
Gambit
true
was a smarter
caricature
team.
of what LPL is talked about being like.
Yeah, it's like watching LPL in 2014. They have one of the poorest vision I've seen out of almost any of the teams. They do what I call a skirmish warding, where they take a line. They're like, "Oh, we're pushed in and we have control of its entire area. We're just gonna ward where the line is that we have control." That's it. They don't do deep wards. They don't do objective control wards. And if they do any teleport wards, it's literally last minute because they're like, "Well, maybe we're gonna fight." And it threw me off watching the first 2 playoff series of that region because it's like the Harlem Globetrotters beating up on your high school basketball team.
Yep.
Oh.
Is that not an apt comparison to what the rest of Russia's region is like?
I mean, I don't want to say that, but like, it's definitely not great. I'll agree with that. That's as far as I'll go.
UL is interesting because the most played for the AD carry gadget is Senna, Sona, and then like Varus and Sivir. So he doesn't play Caitlyn and Ashe and who everybody else is playing. He's playing, they're playing Senna Thresh and doing setup. They're still playing around bot lane per se, but just with CC set up for their jungler to be camping them constantly. The player that interests me the most, and like my player to watch, is their mid laner, No Man's. He's
oh my god.
Try saying what he plays. Like he plays a different champ every single game. His most played is Kassadin, which he's played 3 games on like the entire year. He just plays everything.
He's a Swiss Army knife.
But he does 31% of his team's damage, which is insanely high for most anything. You think about it, 5 players, 31% is very high. He gets a solo kill every other game, basically.
Yep.
So he's just constantly solo killing people on lane on all sorts of different champions. It's not like he's just one-tricking the block and killing people. And he's got an average 8 KDA. Now again, there's just a team that just demolished everything else, but it's not like he's just winning on one thing. He's winning on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a comparison, this is not like the random year Cloud9 showed up and they like won everything on one type of composition.
Mhm.
UL have some oddly flexible drafts out of this.
Yep.
They're just all centered around which way they're gonna fight, where they're gonna put their priorities in
Yep.
gold. Like the draft flexibility is primarily within the first 10 minutes of the game, and then once they transition to mid game, all bets are off. We got the gold where we need them. Let's go, 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 go.
Yep.
Only because we're starting to run a bit long, we definitely do need to get to predictions now for play-ins.
Mhm.
We're looking almost
And
at an
everybody knows
hour
about
right now.
LGD.
Yeah.
LGD is from China. I'm going to say LGD is the weakest team out of China, but they're above average. They're like average, above average compared to everybody else in
Mhm.
both of these groups. So I don't expect them to have any problems. Peanut is just gonna. Every other jungler here has no chance.
Yeah. So my personal predictions, just to start us off,
Yeah.
for Group B, I personally think the two people that we're getting out of this group is going to be LGD with a 4-0 and UOL with a 3-1. Personally, that's what I think is going to happen. I don't know about you guys.
Personally, I think the top two for Group B is 4-0 out of LGD, and then because I predicted tiebreakers here, I thought there was going to be a tiebreaker between PSG, UOL, and R7 because Rainbow 7 is the Mad Lads. But I do expect PSG to make it out into top two out of this group with 3-2, and then UOL tie 3-3, and then Rainbow 7 2-3. Mostly the reason why I don't expect UOL to do as good is because they came from a region where they were the Harlem Globetrotters, and now they're going to the NBA.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair comparison. What about you, Connor?
Yeah. So I have UOL 4-0. I know it's about as spicy as it gets.
All
but yeah, I think if anyone's going to pull off the upset against LGD, it's definitely going to be them. Especially I was watching a thing recently. I think it was LS was mentioning it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's like, Peanut plays all the the fast clearing junglers. He plays Graves, Kindred, Lisa, and Nidalee, right, with the early game clear.
Yes.
Still always behind on CS, despite
Yes.
doing that. And if you watch his pro view, I think it was who was mentioning it. It was like you watch his pro view, and it's like he's playing Graves and not even kiting his camps properly.
Yeah.
Like
no,
he does everything else amazingly, but like he's not
it's
kiting jungle
incredibly
camps.
bizarre.
It's so weird.
Yeah. And I think that has to do more with the fact that they're not, I don't think they learn how to play that kind of draft. And they only started doing that later into the playoffs. Because early in, Peanut is ahead, but not on clearing junglers. And it's
yeah.
But
other thing is that LGD, basically, if they're going to an objective, they ward in a line from where they were to where they're going. They don't place flank wards. They don't cover their own jungle. They don't place behind them. It's just, we're coming from mid lane. We're going to Dragon, so we're going to ward this path through the river between our mid lane and our jungle.
Yeah, not
it's
ahead.
worse than the skirmish ward. It's worse than the skirmish ward. It's the breadcrumbs.
All right.
So
it's sorry, go.
Very easy for them. I saved a clip. I think it was their game against JDG, where JDG just went, okay, we have wards in the Dragon Pit. You didn't bother control warding this other than the river. You only control warded the river.
Yep.
So we can just get on 3 different sides of you and steal the dragon, win the team fight, no problem.
I remember this exact play in my head, and it was so good. Like JD, not to harp on JDG too much. LGD has a terrible vision control, but JDG is really strong on their vision denial play. That play was beautiful and immaculate, but honestly, holy shit. Like, how does LGD even do any vision work?
I think that'll also probably only be exasperated by the fact that I just have this feeling that they're going to be like, oh, we're China. We're a major region. We don't need to care too much about these small fry. I just have like an inkling of a feeling that that's going to get worse in play-ins, in my opinion.
Yeah, so if you're saying UOL is the team that just, they play to skirmish and they play to fight, and, why I like watching on Nomads is because he's playing like Victor and he just, flash combos into your face. Right? Like just jumps in to the front of the team fight. And I feel like even coming from China, they're not going to expect that out of, especially out of a mid laner on a control mage. Most people don't just be like, yeah, I'm just going to jump into your team as Victor and blow up all my damage and hope it works. Like,
And who's your second pick, Connor?
LGD, right?
LGD, yeah.
There's just
So-
stronger than 3-1.
So we've got LGD, UOL, and then PSG,
PSG.
UOL, LGD. So Seb's the only person that thinks that UOL is not getting out of this group. Well, we'll see.
I'm gonna say my prediction is might not be super on because if people don't know, but PSG right now has to play with 2 players from AHQ,
This is
and
also
I think
true.
those players, like the mid lane and jungle for AHQ, whose names I can't remember, Uniboy and I don't remember.
I
But
can't help you.
but like AHQ is a cursed organization, regardless of who they're
Mm.
playing, who they have fronted in
Mhm.
their team.
Yep.
They're gonna do AHQ things, and I don't understand why. It's kind of like how like CLG for the longest time was the same thing, and then they're back to that.
Yeah.
So they're playing weaker for the play-ins, but I think the smart thing is that the way their coaching staff approaches their strategies at least is consistent, and they always play to the strength of their laners, which is to say that like at least I imagine that they will be a step above in terms of cut and quality to most of the other laners outside of LGDs.
Mhm.
I think UL will give them some struggle, but I don't expect UOL to do like that much better. But again, substitutes literally change everything in that prediction. So, take
So
it
I
with
guess
a grain of
Group A
salt.
now.
And so we're gonna go through Group A a little bit faster because it's a little bit not as spicy. We also
Yeah.
need to hurry because we need to get to our top 4s.
Ooh,
So Group A, for me, I personally have TL40, Mad Lions 3-1. Connor?
Yeah, actually, I'll let you and Seth go because you both did the same thing. So
Okay.
it's easier just to.
Yeah, I'm also TL40 Mad Lions 3-1.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could toss up Mad Lions 4-0 and TL3-1, and I would be like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Like literally whatever makes that position is literally that match between the two of them, barring anything spicy that happens out of Supermassive.
I only think that TL's going 4-0 only because they're gonna play super safe and they're gonna essentially do like the old Korean style of slowly choke out people, which I feel will still work with the majority of the people in their group. And again, the only people that might challenge that would be Mad and then maybe Supermassive, depending.
One moment as I open the door.
Yeah. Connor, while Seb's gone, do you want to explain what yours
Yeah.
is?
So I have a 3-way tie between Mad, TL, and Supermassive. So basically, what I'm saying there is, as you said, TL versus Mad Lions game, it's a toss up. Hard to say who's going to win that. And I think it's quite likely that Cacao is going to be able to carry not every game, but he's probably going to be able to get enough of a lead that they can win against someone. So we're saying that Supermassive is able to pull an upset against either your TL or your Mad, and that all of a sudden gives you your 3-way tie.
Yeah. Okay, so unfortunately that group's a bit boring, but it's fine. Now we'll get to the really fun part right before we end, which is going to be our top 4 most likely, unlikely teams to get into semis. So Seb basically explains this. Yeah, you go.
Yeah. So I wanted to make things a little bit interesting because otherwise the point system is almost the same as how Riot does their like, oh, join the group thing. I'm like, all right, whatever, cool. But I thought everybody could get a bonus 2 points for every team that makes it to semis. That's an unlikely team that they could expect to make the run if they were like the miracle run. I'm thinking like, what are 4 teams that you expect to be like Type A assassins for those who are really old school fans?
Yeah. I could start it off.
Yeah,
My top 4 most unlikely likelies. No, most likely unlikelies. That's what it is.
Yeah.
To make it possibly to quarters and semis is FlyQuest, Mad Lions, UOL, TL. I'll start bottom up. TL, I think that they're maybe possibly going to make it just because of the fact that a lot of teams are kind of adopting the more crazier style. And if they can lock down hard enough and stay solid and not be too moved by all like the chaos and the fighting that's kind of been the new norm, maybe they can make it. UOL, I'm it's kind of almost the opposite. They embrace the chaos so much that they helps them thrive, helps them upset a couple teams, and that's
Mhm.
how they would get there. FlyQuest is literally there just because I'm hoping that Santorin and Power of Evil just carry the team. Santorin's one of the best junglers in NA in my opinion, if not the best jungler. And I think that he can really hold his own once he gets here to Worlds. So I'm thinking if there's an NA team that can make it, like I technically put them, even though there's no order, I put them on top of TL. I think it'll be off the back of Santorin and Power of Evil because Power of Evil is pretty solid too, but mostly Santorin. And then Mad Lions, just because, again, their season was really good. I know that we're in a different patch and all that stuff now, but I think Mad Lions can maybe pull it off if they get a good read on this patch. Anyone else?
Yeah. So my 4 teams I have would be TSM, UL, Fnatic, and Machi. Um, I was about to say, other stuff like, Gen.G might be more likely, but that's, you know, not as unlikely to happen,
Mm-hmm.
as we mentioned. So I'll just talk about what I have as different. So I have TSM there.
Boo.
Looking at that Group C, you know, I think there's a decent chance you could see Group C going like 3-3, 3-3, 3-3, 3-3, 3-3. Like, that's reasonable. That's how close that group is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's obviously people have made lots of arguments about,
Mhm.
seeing whatever, Gen.G or LGD or Fnatic or, I'm sure people can argue all 4 is my point. So, you know, there's certainly a world where you can see, Vixen's able to carry TSM to a few games. They make it out on tiebreakers or pull off that second place in the group. Unicorns of Love, I've already talked about them earlier. Same thing with Fnatic. They're in that same Group C. Anything can happen in that group. And then last is Machi,
Oof.
which for most of us, I mean, I haven't watched PCS all year. I went back and watched some of the playoff games, but they're the team that everyone says, "Good, we want them in our group," mostly because we don't know that much about them
Mm.
to a certain extent, right? Watching their games. So Mission, their mid laner, it's good. Does 30% of the damage on his team. He's basically always wins the lane. Basically everyone in the PCS playing against them, they ban Azir, Zoe, and Syndra every time against them because they're like, we don't want to give Mission, Azir, Zoe, or Syndra, any of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's still playing Orianna or Corki and winning on his tier 2 picks. Whereas their jungler Gemini is most played like Lee Sin, Graves, Nidalee. Just again, power farms is same thing as Graves is great. Yeah, I think they could certainly do good. Again, they might have a hard group. It's hard to say they win games off G2 and Suning, but
Fongbu did it.
it could happen. Yeah,
Yeah,
it could
Fongbu
certainly
did it.
happen. They're not.
Yeah.
They're definitely not a bad team. They're definitely not someone to just say, oh, they're going to go 0-6, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
All right,
Yeah.
Seb, bring us home.
Yeah. So mine are Machi, Mad Lions, Team Liquid, and Fnatic.
Mhm.
Now, as much as I was like, my tier list harps on the European teams because I do think that there is some hope from out of them. I'm going to start from the bottom up. So Fnatic, honestly, I'm so impressed with their drafting that I think that the fact that their drafting is so smart and that they have a lot of flexibility with their drafting and like the finals G2 versus Fnatic, the drafting from both of those sides were like my favorite from the entire world, despite the 3-0 finish and the misexecution and all the messiness. So I do think like if
But the
Fnatic is able
draft,
to
though.
the drafts, oh my god. But Fnatic, if they hold down and they get much cleaner in their execution, I think they're gonna like surprise some people with some of the way that they draft.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that angle probably will help them. Team Liquid, same logical that Josh you had. Like if they hunker down on their style, they're likely to either do really well, or if they learn to be more flexible and be as consistent with their flexibility as their like consistent hard front to back style, I could see them doing fairly okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mad Lions, I think, is just the scrappiest out of the European teams. They just have to fine tune a little bit, and I think they would have the same kind of impact that G2 had, which is really what my first impact out of them was, is that they seem like G2 Junior,
Mm-hmm.
right? In terms of stylization and the way that they approach the game. They're just not as clean on their execution, and they're much better at predicting and reading how the other team plays than G2. So if
Mm-hmm.
they just refined it a little bit, I think they'd be better than G2 actually.
I think
But
one thing that
again,
they have over G2 is that I think that they're humbler, if that makes sense.
yes.
Like G2's way too cocky for their own good. Again, they're a good team. I'm not gonna say that they're bad, but like I think that the thing that gets G2 more than anything is how overconfident they tend to be. So
Mm,
if Mad is a G2 light, I think what's gonna save them is the fact that they can't be as cocky as G2, and I think that's what's gonna help
yes.
them.
And then my last one is Machi, and I'm really excited for Machi. The entire PCS region annoyed me for the first half of their playoffs, and then because oh my god, there's one of their series that is there was a double ace in the game. It was I don't even want to try to remember that. But because that region's so pendulum swingy, sometimes you miss things that are really cool. Machi was like TSM, fourth seed in. No one expected them to do much better than fourth. They'd get eliminated twice and then they're done. But they beat the J team, the successors to OA Flash Wolves. They consistently improve while staying in the winners bracket. And then when they do the rematch against J team, and J team improved significantly more, they not only beat them 3-0, much harder than they did the first time, and they severe improvement from it. And you can tell the more games they were playing, even when they were winning, they were improving as if they had lost really hard. And then when they got to the grand finals against PSG, and they had lost fairly solidly against PSG, not like a stomp, but you can clearly tell PSG had done their work a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
Machi comes back swinging another 3-0, and I'm like, if Machi keeps up this pace of improvement, this is better than what TSM showed. This is better than any of the regions showed at all in terms of rate of improvement. I can see Machi make a pretty good run. But again, it's one of those things where the improvement that you have locally doesn't stop the fact that there are still some issues with the way that they execute the game. The
Mm-hmm.
improvement is really what has me hyped with this team.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, it's like Mission. When Mission wins lane and is able to start affecting the map,
Mhm.
Machi wins the game.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the mid laners, especially who we have in Group A right now. You have Caps and Angel.
Yes.
So there's if Mission is going to be able to keep up with Caps and Angel,
Machi
has a chance.
Yeah.
I feel like keeping up with Caps is asking a lot, though.
That's the question, right?
Yeah.
So it's
yes. But you have
is
to
he
look
going to be able
at
to do it? He's a great player.
Yeah.
One thing to notice is they ban Twisted Fate every game. He doesn't really play Twisted Fate, and they don't like playing against it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just like, okay, let's ban Twisted Fate. Put me on my control mages where I can.
I think something to note is that Caps and Mission both have very good overlapping champion pools. That'll make it very interesting when they play. And I think the notable thing too is that Machi is not just if the mid laner wins, then we win. It's the team sets up for Mission to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
They have a very mid lane focused draft and a very mid lane focused attempt at the game, which I think is the most interesting take in this meta when it's a dragon meta, because a lot of regions are like, oh, we're going to do heralds first and then eventually get dragons if we're lucky, or if that comes up, which is
TSM.
which I think is not the right take on the meta
TSM.
at all. But that doesn't stop the fact that Machi has the most interesting take, because they focus on the mid lane success and draft around that and play around that to give them flexibility to move to both dragon and herald as a response.
To be fair, I put out a stat. They're a team that's they did fairly well in the region. They won more games than they lost, right?
Yeah.
And they have 40% of the heralds taken.
Yeah.
Not the bad.
So that's not the greatest. Certainly wouldn't say they have herald priority.
It could be worse though. There's some teams with worse priorities.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, they definitely have the ability to play around the objectives, but they're just not. They don't quite have the proper objective control that I would expect out of a team that really wants to make the run. But out of all the teams that I are the the most likely unlikely team to make it there, this is the one that gets me excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to kind of run back over our unlikely likelies or likely unlikelies,
Yeah.
it's me with FlyQuest, Mad Lions, UOL, TL. Connor's got TSM, UOL, Fnatic, Machi. Seb's got Machi, Mad, TL, Fnatic.
Yeah.
So we got a couple repeats there. Mostly the UOLs and the Machis. Like, so there's decent faith in that, and TL.
And
And Fnatic and Mad.
TSM.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we have a
TSM.
lot of faith in the European region.
Well, they impressed last year, so makes sense.
They're really not impressive this year.
Not I said last year. Last year.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how I'm pre hitting NA really hard. Some people are just pre giving EU just extra brownie points because of how good they did last year.
Yeah.
Thing.
Out of all 22 teams, what is the one team you want to win?
The team I want to win is FlyQuest. Because I feel like, again, if an NA team's going to do it, it's going to be FlyQuest. They're not like a garbage, like toxic fan base team like TSM is. So like if NA was going to win, I would want it to be FlyQuest. Also, I think their skins would look sick because of their yellow/gold green color scheme. But yeah, FlyQuest.
Yeah.
Super simple for me.
What about you, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, FlyQuest winning would be obviously be super cool. I'd say other than that, it'd be not that it's going to happen, but it would be super cool to see
It's okay.
TSM or
teams,
UOL.
It's the teams we want to win, not the teams
Yeah,
that we
it's the
think
team
will
we
win.
want to win.
But like, could you imagine like UOL minor region winning worlds? Like,
Oof.
people would just freak out. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Seb, what
It'd
about
be
you?
another Taipei region. I want Suning to win. Suning has me so hyped. My boy Sword Art really needs a championship skin. And like SOFM.
Sword Art's actually put in a lot of work over the past years.
He's been there since almost like season 2.
Yeah, man.
Like,
yeah.
they're so much fun to watch, and I think it's so unfortunate that they played top in the semifinals. It's like they're so good.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just a smidgens better than JD Gaming, but primarily because JD keeps throwing it 29 minutes. But and I will never let that down. But Suning is so much fun to watch, and I really want to see a lion skin.
All right.
We're hoping, and this is the goal here, we have a lot of flexibility with because we are in North America, so the hours are not great. I'll be watching every game live.
Not me.
Hopefully.
I'm saying that right now.
But hopefully every day that there's like games playing, I'm hoping we can get a video out at least before the games from the day after play.
They'll probably be shorter videos for the play-ins, especially just like 30-minute blurbs about what's going on and what we thought. But yeah, we'll probably try to get those out.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, we got some jerseys on the line. Hopefully North America both impresses and doesn't impress, because our pockets would be sad, but we'd be very happy.
You know what? I'm going to say it here too. So you mentioned the semis thing. If Rogue or Mad Lions or a minor league region team make semis, I'll get their jersey too.
Ooh,
that's right.
Yeah, throwing that in. So if the minor region team, Rogue or Mad Lions makes it to semis, throw that in too. I'd be willing to have like a Rogue jersey. Yeah.
I'd be willing to get a V3 jersey.
Okay.
All right, fine. All right, cool. I'll just
throw it in the minor regions.
I'll cave into peer pressure. I'll save some money on the side for that.
Oh my god, we're gonna have to buy so many jerseys. Watch.
Oh my! You know what?
If semis will be.
I think like whenever we do a next series of like videos like this for a different time of the year, we'll just put the jerseys in the background.
Yeah.
And just
to show the improvement of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's gonna do it for this. Right? I think we're done.
Yeah. If anybody watches this, take the time to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what your predictions are going to be. Play along with the point system. Let us know what your points look like over time and what your likely most unlikely team to make it to semis are. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Have a good
Yeah.
day. Bye.
Take care.